Imagine this. You're starving, your brain is barely functioning, and all you can think about is food. You spot a man in uniform. Finally, the waiter has arrived. You wave him over, ready to place your order. But instead of handing you a menu, he flashes a badge. That's when it hits you. You just try to order dinner from a police officer. What happens next? Embarrassment? Laughter? Maybe even a small identity crisis? In this hilarious yet eye-opening speech, we dive into how the brain can betray us at the worst possible times, why scientists are quietly amazed by our daily mental malfunctions, and how a single moment of confusion can turn into a lifetime memory. It's not just funny, it's shockingly relatable. So, stick with me till the end, because you're about to laugh, learn, and maybe even see your own brain in a completely new way. This is the day I mistook a police officer for a waiter. What scientists shock, but don't mention him. Let's begin. The human brain, that magnificent 1.4 kilogram lump of electricity, memories and confusion, is often celebrated for its vast capacity to reason, calculate, remember, and imagine. But on some days, it acts more like a confused potato. Scientists have spent decades studying how the brain works, how it processes data, stores memories, and makes decisions. But what they often don't mention, or maybe just quietly avoid mentioning, is the brain's hilarious habit of confidently making terrible choices under pressure. It's not just a bug, it's a feature, a built-in comedy module perhaps. And on the day I mistook a police officer for a waiter, this feature was firing on all cylinders. Now imagine this. I walk into a restaurant late for dinner, starving like I just walked across a Sahara desert. My brain, already drained from the day, had a very specific mission. Get food, get it fast, and don't mess around. It was a survival situation, a crisis. My stomach had taken over diplomatic control of all brain functions. Logic, reasoning, and caution had been overthrown in a silent coup. Hunger was the new dictator. And in this state of nutritional emergency, my brain's visual recognition system started running at triple speed, but with zero accuracy. Scientists have identified a phenomenon called cognitive misfiring, which happens when the brain under pressure jumps to conclusions based on partial information. It's like your brain is running a race and doesn't wait for the full picture before declaring a winner. It sees a person in a uniform, dark blue shirt, black pants, maybe even a notebook in hand, and immediately assigns a role. That's the waiter! Praise be, dinner is about to be served. And once the brain makes a decision, it's surprisingly stubborn. It doesn't go back and recheck. No, it doubles down confidently, like a game show contestant hitting the buzzer on the wrong answer with a proud smile. What scientists don't often highlight is how this misfiring is made worse by emotional triggers, especially hunger. Hunger isn't just a physical sensation. It's a full-on neurological event. When you're hungry, your brain releases hormones like ghrelin, which not only tell you to eat, but also fog your thinking. Your senses become distorted. People start looking like food. Logic becomes optional. It's like being slightly drunk, but without the social confidence. And when this happens, your brain's priority isn't accuracy. It's speed. Speed to food. Speed to service. Speed to survival. On that fateful day, when I saw the police officer standing near my table, my brain didn't pause for even a nanosecond. He saw a man standing upright, looking serious, wearing a dark uniform, holding what I now realize was a citation pad, not a menu, but at that moment, he looked like a Michelin star maitre d'. My hand went up in the international signal for, excuse me, I'm ready to order. I even smiled. Big mistake. The officer looked confused, slightly alarmed, possibly offended, and there it was. My brain had doubled down. Instead of noticing his badge, his walkie-talkie, or the gun, my brain focused on the most critical question of all. Why is this waiter ignoring me? I even added a polite but firm, "Excuse me, sir, I've been waiting for quite a while. Could I see a menu?" At that point, my brain was on autopilot, fully convinced it was helping me survive. The officer, who was apparently there investigating a disturbance, now believed I was the disturbance. His eyebrow raised higher than my cholesterol. And only then, in that slow motion cinematic horror moment, did my brain finally start catching up. Badge, gun, authority. Oh, scientists who study the brain's processing abilities know that it runs on pattern recognition. It takes shortcuts, and in most cases, those shortcuts are brilliant. They help us recognize faces, read emotions, avoid danger. But when those shortcuts go wrong, they go hilariously wrong. My brain, desperate to complete the waiter pattern, had filtered out every sign that said police officer and scientist. Don't usually write papers titled, "Why Intelligent People Mistake Law Enforcement for Hospitality Staff Under Low Blood Sugar Conditions." But perhaps they should. Another aspect that's rarely discussed is how the brain can't multitask as well as we like to believe. If your emotional system is hijacked by stress, anxiety, or hunger, it temporarily shuts down the parts of your brain responsible for higher reasoning. That's right. Your brilliant, capable mind becomes a fast food drive-through speaker that only hears half of what's being said and responds with something like, "You want fries with that?" It's not that the brain is broken. It's just that it's trying to help. And in doing so, it sometimes embarrasses you in front of armed officers of the law. Incident didn't just end with the awkward misidentification. Oh no, my brain, trying to salvage the situation, attempted to make conversation. "Sorry," I said nervously. "Nice uniform, very professional. You guys must have great customer service training." The officer, to his credit, didn't arrest me. He just stared, expressionless, and said something I'll never forget. "Sir, I suggest you sit down before you order something you can't chew." My brain, still hungry, still confused. It actually started wondering if that was a new dish on the menu. Even in the aftermath, as I tried to explain to friends and family what had happened, my brain was still working overtime to protect my ego. It started rewriting history. "You didn't really think he was a waiter," it whispered. "You were just being sarcastic, playing along, testing the waters." But deep down, I knew the truth. I had mistaken a man trained in law enforcement, possibly martial arts, and definitely public order, for someone trained in recommending appetizers. If scientists truly wanted to explore the depths of human cognition, they wouldn't just put people in labs with puzzles and MRI scans. They'd put them in high-pressure real-life situations with low blood sugar and confusing uniforms. That's where the real discoveries would be made. Because that's where the brain shows its other side, not the genius, problem-solving side, but the panicked, hungry raccoon side that just wants to eat and not die. In the end, the human brain is brilliant but deeply flawed. It's fast but not always accurate. It's protective but often at the cost of dignity. And it's always trying to save energy. That's why it relies on assumptions and stereotypes to make quick decisions. When those assumptions line up with reality, you look like a genius. When they don't, you mistake a cop for a caterer and almost get escorted out of the restaurant in handcuffs instead of carrying travestors. So yes, scientists are shocked by how the brain works under pressure, but they don't talk enough about how funny it can be. They don't include the blooper reel. The brain may be an evolutionary marvel, but it also sometimes functions like that one relative at weddings who confidently misremembers everyone's name and still insists he's right. It's brilliant, it's flawed, it's human, and every once in a while it delivers comedy gold at your expense, all while just trying to help you get lunch. Humans are visual creatures, and one of the brain's fastest shortcuts is assigning roles based on what people wear. A uniform isn't just clothing, it's a symbol that screams identity, purpose, and role. When someone walks into a room wearing a black suit, sunglasses, and an earpiece, you immediately think secret agent or security, not flourished. This visual pattern recognition is hardwired into our brain to save time. But it also opens the door for some wildly hilarious mistakes. That's exactly what happened the day I mistook a police officer for a waiter. Uniforms trigger fast judgments because our brains are obsessed with efficiency. They're constantly trying to categorize and label everything around us so we can react quickly. It's actually a survival mechanism. In the jungle, you didn't have time to stop and analyze whether something was a snake or a stick. Quick decisions could mean life or death. So in modern life, the same logic applies, except now it's not about snakes, it's about who's bringing your food. So when I saw a man in dark blue pants, a pressed shirt, and something that vaguely resembled an order pad in his hand, my brain slammed the gavel down. Waiter, it didn't bother to process the badge, the walkie-talkie, or the unmistakable authority in his stance. Why would it? I was sitting at a table, expecting service, and someone in a professional-looking uniform walked by. That was all the data my brain needed to make what I'd assumed was a 100% correct call. But this is where things go hilariously wrong, because once the brain assigns a label, it filters everything else through that assumption. Confirmation bias kicks in. You start seeing what you expect to see. I thought I saw a waiter because I wanted to see a waiter. Hunger had sharpened my focus, but blurred my logic. Even as the officer looked at me like I'd just grown a second head, my brain doubled down. Maybe he's new. Maybe he's just confused about these specials. Scientists have studied this visual processing for decades, and they know how fast the brain fills in gaps. What they don't emphasize is how confidently it does so, even when it's wrong. The combination of environment, context, and visual cues is powerful and unforgiving when it fails. The result? Embarrassment, awkward apologies, the not unforgettable realization that not all uniforms are designed to bring you fries and a drink. What started as a simple hungry mistake turned into a masterclass in how hilariously flawed but deeply human our brains can be. Under pressure, stress, or extreme hunger, our minds can leap to conclusions faster than logic can catch up. Whether it's mistaking a police officer for a waiter or confidently calling someone mom who isn't even related to you, these moments remind us that the human brain, while brilliant, has a funny sense of timing and zero shame when it misfires. Scientists may not highlight these daily bloopers in their journals, but they are a core part of what makes us wonderfully imperfect. Thank you for sticking around to hear this ridiculous but true tale. May your brain always serve you well, and may your waiters never carry handcuffs. Good luck in all your meals, moments, and mix-ups, and thank you for listening.